How old do you feel? This is the focus group.
They're all business, except when they're not. It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
Hello, everybody. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John T. Nash, in our 13th year. That's what I think.
13th year, yep.
13th year. We are the focus group here every Wednesday with our audio replay for the more transportable, or as John says, what is it? What's
commutable?
What do you like to call? Commutable?
Stairmasterable, stairable.
Workoutable,
yeah,
choreable,
exactly.
Saturday errandable audio feed of the show. But be sure to find out all about us at focusgroupradio.com. And be sure to find our podcast, which is released every Tuesday morning, which is TFG Unbuttoned. And this week, our podcast was all about rainbows. We had lots of rainbows on it this week. We also have some rainbow stories this week. June on our show here, June seems to be full of rainbows. We've noticed rainbows are everywhere. They're on everything. Every company seems to be putting a rainbow up.
Happy Pride! The Pride leprechauns dance into the streets.
I was wondering where the leprechaun was going to be. I'm looking for one. You cannot find a. So
No.
We need somebody to draw one. You need to do one, Mr. Graphic Artist, designer, creative director. You
Pride
need to
leprechaun,
do a leprechaun.
TM for
Leprechaun.
trademark.
I keep saying
Leprechaun.
leprechaun. I did that last year.
Top of the Pride to you. Top of the Pride. You know, when that little character was invented, that was way back in the day. We used to go to the Pride Parade here in the city, and you would walk around and do that to people. Top of the Pride, or Happy Pride, and some would get it, and they'd laugh out loud. Others would look at you like you were kind of a freak.
Wow.
Top of the Pride. So what do we got on the show today? We have, as you mentioned, we do have some rainbow stories towards the back in our shop talk, correct?
Yes, I was just interrupted by somebody. Again, I'm getting these Russians that are calling me. I just had to go to the thing and shut it down. I keep getting these Russian people calling me on my Facebook feed, so I had to shut Facebook off. But did you hear it ring?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah. So so that's why I was thrown off my game here. But yeah, so we have our Caught My Eye segment. Then we've got our deep discount segment in the first part of our show, and then we'll take a quick break. Then we come back with our business birthday and our shop talk. And today we're going to talk about how old you feel and what age it is that you feel old. And I'll be curious to see if you agree with what the article is. It was reposted in the Ladders, but it gave an age as to where people started to feel that they felt old. And I was wondering when we get to that segment whether you agree with that age.
Today.
Today. And then there was a story about the rainbow flag, the original rainbow flag, and how it's been found. They all thought it was lost, but it's been found and brought back to San Francisco in all its glory.
And it's
so
on
we'll talk
display
about
now,
that.
correct? Yeah.
So, yeah, John, Facebook, I'm getting these calls all of a sudden. Are you getting these calls? I don't know how to shut it off in this messenger.
Do you have is somehow your phone connected to Facebook?
Who knows? I got all kinds of problems with Facebook lately. First of all, I went in to try to shut down pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And there's lots of complaints on these blogs. People said that you have to go in individually to pictures and put in privacy settings. I thought you could just do a blanket privacy setting.
I thought that was if you were hashtagged or copied on any of this, that you would automatically have the ability to deny the post, right? I guess not, huh?
Well, you can do that, but after you put something up and it's been posted, you have to go in and individually label the picture. So once something's been published, you then have to go in and mark it either private or who can look at it. But you can't just do a blanket privacy setting unless you shut everything down. And so I went on a number of blogs and people were complaining about it. And I've also stopped doing the birthdays. I was a slave to the birthdays. And so every morning I would wake up and I would wish the 10 or 15 people, because you and I seem to have an awful lot of people because of the show, and that are there. And I would feel guilty if I didn't wish everybody a happy birthday. And so I stopped that last month.
I'm surprised. Like, so we're very different. I do wish people happy birthday, but they're in my calendar, my actual real calendar. Like, so those are the important birthdays. And I don't mean to disparage any birthday on Facebook, but if it pops up as someone's birthday and if it happens to be on my calendar, then I'll send a text or an email, but I don't do it I really don't do it through Facebook that often.
Yeah, well, you were always good about that. I got in the habit of doing it. It was like giving out big candy bars at Halloween. Once you do it, you can't stop.
Can't stop, yeah.
So, and I took my own birthday off this year, my birthday of April 9th. I did not take it. So it was interesting. There were 3 or 4 listeners that remembered it was my birthday, and they did post. But generally, I went from having, 700 birthday wishes to 4, which was fine with me. And as you said, people who know you would text you or would call me. But the birthday thing was getting out of control. So I had stopped that. And then I decided I wanted to lock my profile down a little bit because I'm getting these at all hours of the night, these people calling me. Ayatollah Namoli in St. Petersburg, Ukraine, or wherever the hell they are. They want to talk.
I don't know. You're like, you get a lot of interesting problems. Like, remember that time your computer, something was wrong, and I told you to use malwarebytes.com. Like, it was an anti-malware thing for your Mac, and it found, 17 malware things that were causing all sorts of trouble. You're a magnet for malicious computer and online behavior. That's the best way to put it, right?
Is that what you think it is?
Well, they target. I don't know how they do it. I must have something on Facebook set up where you can't communicate with me. That must be the thing, because I rarely use Messenger. Sometimes people will send me. I found a message in Messenger from like a year ago, and I finally responded to it. And it was my brother-in-law, and he sent a note back. He goes, finally, you get back to me. But it's just another distraction, another form of communication that takes you off your game or takes you out of it. So.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I also wanted to apologize to any listeners. We're not ignoring you. I found a whole bunch of messages from listeners that were, I guess, squirreled away in our Facebook page, Focus Group Radio, that were, layer upon layer upon layer in there. And people asking questions, or there were messages. And some of them were over a year or well over a year old.
Wow.
And so it's, but Facebook keeps changing their functionality and their interface, and it gets frustrating. And I know a lot of people that have now, they've actually just walked away from Facebook. I have more and more friends that are leaving Facebook. I don't know if you don't use it all that much. I know you poke at it on the weekends maybe, but that's about it.
Yes. If I give it 10 or 15 minutes a week, that's probably a lot. And I know it sounds crazy, but whenever I go to it, I'm not surprised that I'm not missing anything. I guess that's the best way of putting it. Like, I like some things that pop up I definitely like or love, or there's some great stuff on there, but I can't be doing it every day. It just drives me crazy.
So what caught your eye this week?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
Oh, I love found treasure. Rags to riches, a picture that might have had a Declaration of Independence behind it. This one is a different story, though, and it's sort of sad in a way because apparently, and let's get the graphic up here, a homeless woman in Oregon died with more than it says here in the headline, 800,000. The article puts it at closer to 900,000. In inheritance funds in a state bank just remained in her name, and she never claimed them. So it's a homeless woman. Her name is Kathy Boone. She died with hundreds of thousands of unclaimed money in a bank. Boone's mother died in 2016, and her mother's estate tried to contact her multiple times but failed. When she couldn't be reached, the money was held at the Oregon State Department of State Lands. So she was estranged. This woman, Kathy Boone, 49, she was homeless. She lived in Astoria, Oregon, before she died last January. Her father, Jack Spithill, 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 told KGW that Boone had a hard time throughout her adult life. I attribute it almost all to drugs, but I think she also had some mental health issues, and the combination of the two didn't work out very well for her, Spithill told the outlet. However, in 2016, after her mother died, she relapsed and started using drugs again, adding that, this just compounded the problem. So she didn't even know. They were trying to reach her. They didn't know that she had this money. She didn't know she had this money coming. and family and friends tried to reach her to no avail. Representatives handling her mother's estate tried multiple times. Therefore, in 2019, her $884,407, that's why it's closer to $900, was transferred to the Oregon Department of State Lands, and that was her inheritance. Money just sat there. Could have done her a world of good, I suppose. And it says here, given a year and a half of effort taken by the personal representatives and the attorney for this particular state, there really isn't much more the state could do. And you know, you and I have talked about this a lot with parents who pass away or loved ones, and you have to take care of the estate at a certain amount of time, or the state will come in and take care of it for you. So right now, Kathy Boone's estate is working with the Oregon Department of State Lands, which I guess holds the money in escrow or something, and they're trying to get the money back to the family or to any relatives that she may have. But to someone who could have really used $900,000,
Wow.
Since she was estranged, they had no way of reaching her, and they literally just slipped away.
It sounds like she probably could not have managed the money on her own.
Correct. The father, I mean, the way he set that up about drugs or drug use, habitual drug use, and the possibility that there may have been an underlying condition, a mental illness condition. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that she might not have been able to manage that, but certainly maybe someone in her orbit could have, and might have transformed her life on some level. I don't know.
Did you ever check one of those things to find out if you had any money?
All the time.
Did you have any?
Nope.
I found $2,800.
Did you really? And it was truly yours?
Yeah, I had, I'd paid and it was one of these things, I'd moved around so much with Subaru, and I had paid a medical bill or something had happened when I lived in, of all places, Oregon. And I had since moved to Minneapolis, St. Paul, and then I'd moved to Illinois and then into Pennsylvania. And by the time the insurance company reconciled with the billing, the money was sitting with an insurance company in Oregon. And then it was transferred to Illinois and whatever. So I checked it when I lived in Pennsylvania, and I had to pay $110. So they I don't know if you know
like a
this,
processing fee or something.
Well, they rook you. They say that. So
They
they say
rook
you do have money there, and then you contact them, and if it's over a certain amount, so I asked them how much it was. If it was over $1,000, I said I'll pay, but if it wasn't, you kind of have to play a game with them. But anyway, I did it, and so yeah, it was found money. It was this insurance claim of the insurance company finally paid a claim from a doctor's visit or whatever it was, and so the money was sitting there.
There you go, found money, Tim. I know,
but I would have no idea.
I did not know this story. I love this.
Overpaid the premium. I would have had no idea.
Yeah. So poor Kathy Boone. But I'm glad you ended the story with that. It's never a bad idea to check states where you've lived if there's a registry of unclaimed funds. You never know, right? You never know.
Yeah. No, you certainly do. You never do. You never do. And nobody was more shocked than me, believe me, because I would have never thought it.
Well, you're good about money. You know what you have. You know what you don't.
Well, I obviously didn't. Although I won't even tell you what I did. I found an expense check that was never cashed. Expense report check that was given to me for over $500.
All right. Well, that's no longer found money. That's lost money. Right?
That's lost money, but I figured you and I probably had a hotel room here and there.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
In the south of France. Anyway, hello. So my story this week, I saw this. You probably saw this too. And actually,
I didn't. I'm just intrigued by this.
I thought you might have had this story. So everyone knows John and I love the B-52s. Kate Pearson, one of the women singers, who of all things is 72 years old, if you can believe it.
No, I cannot.
I know, one of the founding members of the B-52. She has a place called Kate's Lazy Meadow up in Mount Tremper, New York, which is in the Catskills. Probably not, I don't know, is it near you guys, upstate?
Catskills would be west of us, yeah. So it's not that close, but it's accessible.
So she has this 10-unit hotel that she and her wife had bought, Monica Coleman, and they bought it a number of years ago, back in 2004. She said she stumbled upon the property when she was out driving around. It's a 6.5-acre property, and it's only open on the weekends. And I've always wanted to stay there. She's decorated in a kind of a very kitsch almost Pee Wee Herman meets the 50s, 60s vibe. And she said she decorated it with lots of things she's found along her travels with the band, of course, the B-52s. And she used to fight with Fred Schneider, the lead singer. She said they would go teaking, as they called it. Instead of antiquing, they'd go teaking, and they would fight over different items. But a lot of them ended up in this roadside hotel. And she has a number of, I didn't realize this, she has a number of other properties. She also owns two other getaways. One's called Kate's Lazy Desert in Landers, California, which is where they bring in a number of Airstreams and campers. You can go there and park.
That was the one I was more familiar with, was the camper park, yeah.
Right, and this one I didn't know about. Kate's Lazy Cabin in Lake Hill, New York. They also operate. So she said, so she and Coleman's a ceramic artist, and Pearson obviously still performs with the B-52s. She still travels with them. And they decided that although Kate felt that she could franchise this idea of this hotel, because each room is very different and very unique and has this kitsch vibe. She says every room has a VHS tape of a, which she called it was a cabin. How did she phrase it? It was a cabin murder mystery, or a cabin
something like that took place with a cabin on a lake or whatever, right?
Well, she said like every room has a VHS tape in every room with cabin in the woods horror movies.
There you go.
So she decided to sell the property for $2.2 million. You can buy it. It's listed in Sotheby's. And she said she just decided that it was too much for them to handle, that they wanted to do some other things. And even though she thought it was a great idea to franchise it, that she felt somebody else should take the property. And she thought either a family could do it and use it as a compound, and because of the 13 different rooms or whatever, and have a family compound, or somebody else could buy the property and certainly use it as a roadside hotel. I'm not so sure it would have the same appeal, since
Good point.
It's not.
Yeah.
I think the whole thing was, hey, you might see Kate from the B-52s. That's why I thought if we ever did another road trip, it was on our list of places to go if we ever did upstate New York. She did say she only had one staff member that cleaned rooms. She said in the beginning she had somebody who was a narcoleptic, and she always wondered why he had bandage on his head. I guess he used to fall asleep and fall on his head. Then she said she had a drag queen that would clean, and he would clean and drag. And he would always leave his tip envelope and say, thanks for tipping. Mama needs a new wig. And
I would love that, right? Being around that.
So she said she's not selling the brand name, and she's not selling the other two properties. So she says we're not completely out of business. But,
okay. So we can still do a road trip, right?
Yeah. So if you want to buy this place, you can contact, I believe it's listed through Sotheby's. It's Heather, Elizabeth Peters and Heather Kroner, Sotheby's International. It's on the market for $2.2 million, 13 bedrooms, 11 bathrooms. And it's fully furnished. You can buy it as is. Everything's furnished. Everything comes with it.
Fully furnished and kitsch. So
Route 28 in the Catskills.
There you go.
So there you go. Yeah. So, hey, everybody knows that friends of ours here on the Focus Group, Deep Discount. They're having, if you go to focusgroupradio.com, you can click on the Deep Discount logo and start shopping away. Right now, they're having a site-wide sale through the month of June. And so there's lots of great stuff there. I was poking around all over the place finding things, and I'm sure you were as well, Mr. Nash. And I'm curious as to what you and Sharky the Shark might have found this week.
You know what I found? A hidden gem, and I'm definitely getting this. And it's a DVD called Public Speaking. It came out in 2013. The director was Martin Scorsese. If you're seeing a connection here, and the starring Fran Lebowitz. So you know that whole show she had on Netflix. Right. I think it was Netflix. And Martin Scorsese was involved in that as well. So actually their relationship I know that goes back quite a long way, but I never knew this existed. So it's what does it say here? What's the definition here? It says, directed by Oscar winner Martin Scorsese and produced by Emmy and Peabody winning documentary producer and Vanity Fair editor Graydon Carter, a name I haven't heard for a while, along with Margaret Bode. Public Speaking captures the essence of legendary New York bestselling writer Fran Lebowitz, who is perhaps most known for her unique take on modern life. Well said. So yeah, it's like this HBO documentary I never knew existed. I'm definitely picking up 1440. I'm off and running.
I never knew it existed either. So it looks like it came out originally in 2013. So
yeah, it's a little over an hour and almost an hour and a half, and it's manufactured on demand, which I love, which means you just put your order in. A couple days later, you're going to get a one of a kind.
I love Fran Lebowitz, and I always wonder, though, you and I wonder whether she's just an acquired Northeast taste.
No, I've heard other people love her. So
yeah.
So what'd you pick?
I picked only because I had stumbled on this and I laughed. Julia Child, the French chef. And so this includes 12 original episodes of the French Chef. And so this is, so everybody knows Julia Child. This is the story of her two great loves, her husband and her love for cooking. So they have interviews of her. This is filmed in her kitchen. There's lots of rare images and photos of she and her husband, Paul, and tells kind of their story. And so it's kind of a tribute to her as an American icon. And then there's 2 discs that feature 12 of her classic episodes of The French Chef. And they are, hilarious as they are not supposed to be, I guess.
Yeah, because
I just think it's one of those things where they don't run them anymore. They used to, I think, on PBS and a few places every now and then would run them. But it's very simple cooking when you watch it now. And I've watched a couple of these over the years. And I think there's just something very soothing and very enjoyable about them. And so I thought that would be a great pick and a great gift for somebody who's a cook, because you can follow along. And she likes butter and she likes cream.
Butter
and wine.
Butter and wine and cream. Yeah. I think it's an excellent pick, and I love Julia Child. And by the way, Dan Aykroyd's on there, which means they probably have that famous Saturday Night Live sketch where he's like, doing this whole thing where he's dressed up as Julia Child. Yeah, that's the one. All right, and the release this week is Indiana Jones 4-movie collection. It's on 4K Ultra HD as well. So you know what you're getting there, and if you're an Indiana Jones fan, it's The Raiders of the Lost Ark from 1981, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom from 1984, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade from 1989. That's the one with Sean Connery, who plays his father. And Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which was Shia LaBeouf. That's 2008. Big gap there from 1989 to 2008, by the way.
Yeah.
And Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom was not one of my favorites, although that's where Steven Spielberg, the director, met his wife, Kate Capshaw, because she was one of the stars of the movie. So to recap, go to focusgroupradio.com, click on the deep discount logo, begin your shopping experience, and we know you're going to enjoy it. The movies we picked this week, Public Speaking, manufactured on demand DVD from HBO that came out in 1993. Tim picked French Chef about Julia Child. And Indiana Jones 4-movie collection is the release of the week. So there you go. We're going to take a very quick break, friends. And when we return, we have Shop Talk and Business Birthday, so stay with us.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Now back to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Available pretty much everywhere.
Hey, welcome back to The Focus Group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John T. Nash. Hello to our friends in Palm Springs and all other places in between, or near and far, I guess.
Near and far or in between. It's all the same, right?
It's all the same. Be sure to catch us. Go to focusgroupradio.com, and actually you can find all of our information there. You'll also see our sponsors, as well as be able to find links to all our shows, including our podcast, which is TFG Unbuttoned, which is released every Tuesday. Mr. Nash, before we get to the business birthday, did you see the article about Jeff Bezos going to go up on a rocket?
Took me by surprise. And he's bringing with him, or he invited his brother?
Now, this is the first time is it an Amazon rocket? Is this the first time it's going up
so
to space?
Jeff Bezos owns a company called Blue Origin, and they have been trying to compete with SpaceX for commercial launches into orbit, into the near orbit and the space station, but they're a little behind the curve. They've had some successful test flights, but it's been very shrouded in. SpaceX gets a lot of, Elon Musk gets a lot of press and a lot of airplay. But I hadn't been aware that they were close to the passenger thing. And then I thought to myself, why would you want to be the first?
I don't have a good feeling about this.
I thought the same thing. I thought, okay, you're a owner of one of the major corporations of the world, right? And I don't know. Doesn't the board or doesn't somebody say you can't do that? Like, didn't we have clauses we used to have to sign for like risky behavior?
I thought the same thing. I thought this is an awful risky little endeavor.
First passenger, yeah, boom. And of course we wish him. We want that flight to be perfect, and it's going to be amazing. But as every astronaut who's ever talked about the space program says, who's gone into orbit, either on the shuttle or the Saturn V or any rocket that takes them up, or the Soyuz, they're on the top of a bomb, right? I mean, they're in a little capsule on top of what is technically, an explosive because of all that propellant. And although SpaceX is doing fine with their stuff so far, so,
I'm claustrophobic. I could not be in one of those things.
Oh, no, you would not fare well. I don't think you're going to be an astronaut, no.
I had a tough time going up in the arch when you and I were in St. Louis.
Oh, that was...
That little egg.
Well, two reasons why. One was it was 104 degrees that day when we got to St. Louis, and we did ride up, and it was air conditioned in the arch, but it was kind of hot inside. I remember it was not the most comfortable day, but you did have fun when you got up to the top, didn't you?
Yeah, it was nice, but then of course it was the city of St. Louis. I don't think it was the government, but the Park Service had an old hot green hose that you would have in your yard for water. Remember how nasty that was?
We have a picture of that water van. Yeah, it was like, have a drink, and you
Yeah, I'm not so sure I would be going up in the be the first rocket. And then another thing I had seen, I thought of you because I've talked about this many times. Apparently, United Airlines has bought these, I think, 11 or 20
supersonic jets. Not even developed yet. I mean, the prototype is in wind tunnel testing right now. A miniature of the prototype. Then they're going up to full scale. The thing that I read about that as well, they called it green supersonic flight. It was something about like it was going to be environmentally better than the original Concorde, which burned a ton of fuel and was not exactly a friend of the climate. I scratched my head at that one. I thought, how could they do that? Because they haven't gotten electric-powered engines for aircraft to the level of a jet fuel would be. So we'll see. But they talked about flight times between New York and London. Again, 2.5, 3 hours, and they claim this plane is going to go up to low Earth orbit, or like going to go up and then come down, and you'll literally be able to see the curve of the Earth through the window.
New York, Seattle, 45 minutes.
There you go. And we could go all the way to Seattle to a tavern and order a vodka cranberry and be told you can't get that there. You got to go across the street because a tavern.
I had a friend of mine that was a fighter pilot. He said it's no problem to do that.
Oh, no, commercial airlines are not pushing those planes as fast as they can go. I think we definitely know that, yeah.
Yeah, I have a problem with that. I think you need to push it.
Well, talk to the airlines, and they'll talk to you about fuel consumption, passenger ratios, weight. They'll have an answer for you. Yeah.
I think you should push it. Anyway, then I guess 2025, they said these supersonic things are going to be going.
Maybe. I'd looked at possibly, but commercial service by 2030. So maybe the prototype is done and flying at 2025. But that's a pretty aggressive timeline.
I'd like to fly on one of those.
I would too. And did you notice how big the windows were? Like each seat is next to a big window, and it's like, from your armrest all the way up over your head. I would love that, man.
And then the other one, because I saw all of these kind of boom, boom, boom. So I'm glad you saw them too, because I'm kind of springing these on you. Kind of these airships, kind of like the Hindenburg. You see they're bringing those back?
That's been talked about for a while. They've been messing around with lighter than air travel for a long time.
So these look comfy.
For cargo, this was a passenger one you saw?
Yeah, and so you could go from, they were showing them going from New York to Chicago. Now, it's a little bit of a slow boat, but it almost looked like a floating hotel. I mean, they were very loungy.
It's more like crossing the Atlantic on the QE2, right? Yeah. It's like it's not fast, but it's relaxing, yeah.
And very comfortable, and you could bring lots of things with you and walk around. But I thought, what happens when the wind blows?
That's an interesting one. Yeah. There are engines on board that take care of it, but yeah.
So speaking of balloons and wind blowing, we have our business birthday today.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
Born today, June 9th in 1930, Benjamin Abruzzo, Abruzzo. He died February 11th, 1985 at the young age of 54. He was an American balloonist and a businessman who helped make Albuquerque, New Mexico into an international ballooning center.
I was wondering where you were going to tie this all in, and it's this. Albuquerque is the most famous one in the country, right? I mean, that is
the world.
The world. That is ground zero for the hot air balloon thing. I think they're super cool. So he was responsible for starting the whole thing.
Well, he was part of one of the original 13 that started this. What is now the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta. It's the world's most photographed event. It's held the second week of every October. He was one of the original, I believe it was original 13 balloons in 1972 that started as very humble beginnings in a strip mall. And now it consists of, in 2000, they actually had 1,019 balloons, and they realized it was too many.
1,019 balloons? Seriously?
Yes. So each year they said it would grow and grow and grow. It was the largest balloon convention in the world, and they had the number of balloons got so big and so many people. They said each day they'd have over 100,000 spectators coming into Albuquerque.
Wow!
And so they decided they needed to limit it. So they started bringing the numbers down because there were issues with takeoff. I mean, these balloons are huge.
Yep.
So there were issues with takeoff and issues with landing areas. So they dropped it down from over 1,000 to 750 in 2001, and then dropped it even down further to about 600 in 2009. And so they said that in 2011 they bumped it back up again to 1,000, but had spread the event out even over more days. Of course, the event did not happen in 2020 for obvious reasons. But he made his money initially he was involved in real estate and founded and was chairman and CEO of Sandia Peak Ski Resort. And he developed a tram and really developed the ski area around Albuquerque. And that's where he made his money. But he was this big balloon aficionado. And so much so that he was part of the crew that made the very first Atlantic crossing in a balloon, and the Double Eagle II, and also made the very first Pacific Ocean crossing in a balloon, and what he called the Double Eagle V. And they said if you go out to the ski resort there, you'll find that that's also what he's named his ski runs after.
Oh, the balloon names. Okay.
They're named after the balloon,
I like that.
So it all kind of fits together. He grew up in Illinois. He was in the military, and he was based out at the Kirkland Air Force Base in New Mexico, and he ended up staying out there when he retired in 1954 from the military. As I said, he worked for a realty company, Alvarado, in real estate, and then got himself involved in the ski company, Sandia Peak Ski Company. And so when they developed this balloon, the balloon event, he decided he wanted to mimic what the Charles Lindbergh flight across the Atlantic was in 1927, of being the first kind of solo person to fly across the Atlantic. So that's why he wanted to do it in the balloon. So they tried to do it 50 years later.
Like on an anniversary flight, right?
Right. They initially tried out in Massachusetts, and the balloon was blown off course, and they crashed off the coast of Iceland after 65 and a half hours.
My God. Okay. That answers your question about wind and lighter than air travel, right?
Right. So they suffered exposure and frostbite. So they tried again, and this time they took off from Maine, and they were able to make it. It took them 6 days. They landed in France.
Furthest north in the U.S., right? Furthest north and probably east, right? And so they probably went over Greenland. But where did they land in France? You said France, right?
Miserey, Miserey.
Miserey, yeah.
Miserey, France. And there's a documentary that's been done about it called The Spirit of 78. They said he won was given a congressional gold medal for it. And then he decided to also cross the Pacific Ocean in a gas balloon in 1981. It was the longest recorded trip in a balloon. Ironically, he died in a plane crash.
You are not Are you serious? Like it was a small private plane or a commercial plane?
A small Cessna 421
Oh,
he was
boy.
piloting. It crashed near Albuquerque, February 11th, 1985. He was flying with his wife and four others, and they all died in
Oh
the
my
plane crash.
God.
And his son, Richard Abruzzo, who was also a noted balloonist, also died in an aviation accident, a different one, which I think is just very odd.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, Tim, this is an interesting birthday. And he's an interesting guy. And my God, he had the adventurer spirit, right? And the
Yeah.
love of flying, balloons and planes. That's pretty cool.
Balloons and planes. Have you ever been up in a hot air balloon?
No, it's something I would like to do, and I think that there are different parts of the country you could obviously do it in. And Bob was actually just asking me about that. He was like, when you take off in one of those things, where do you land, and how do they have that all figured out? And they do it. They have staging areas, right? So you take off in one place, and you may land in another because you are wind current. It's dependent on the wind current, right?
Yeah, I was telling the story the other night. I think might have been telling Richard. I did it with the Comrade.
Okay.
In Africa, and I will never
Do it again. You were scared?
Well, first of all, I'm afraid of heights.
And you were in a basket, nonetheless, with no...
Now, these baskets are huge. I mean, they're as big as a pickup truck. I mean,
Yeah.
it's enormous. But we had gone with a very angry South African who did not want to go that day. And Chris said, no, we contracted with you. You're taking us. And there were all these other balloon groups that were going that morning at the hotel. He didn't want to wait for the other person that was going with us. So you get up there, and it's very nice. You float up there. You're nice. And
the
gas
jet,
going up.
yeah, and it keeps the air hot, yeah.
And then they give you these instructions when you're land. So we're going over all these zebras and wildebeest. We're out in the Serengeti, or where the hell we were. Lions. So, and we had it was just Chris and I and this guy. So, and two other people, nobody spoke, we didn't speak
So was there a ground support crew, or did you...
Well, he's in a walkie-talkie, and I
Okay,
said
okay.
angry and not wanting to be with us. So, and so
You're
he
looking
says,
if there's a trap door you could pull a handle, you fall out. To
right. So when you land, you have to duck down in like a fetal position, and then the balloon hits the ground and it drags
Yeah.
from,
and it,
like 600 yards, and then it stops. So it stops. His wife comes up with the old Land Rover, and they unpack, and he lets the air out of the balloon, and then he says goodbye. And I said to Chris, I said, we can't stay out here. I said, look at these animals out here. I said, we're going to get
Bye.
And Chris starts yelling at him, and he was just going to leave us there. And he said, somebody will come pick you up. And she said, no. Thank God we got in the thing with him, because it was like another 45 minutes before somebody actually found us.
Wow.
We were out in the middle of nowhere.
Wow.
Can you imagine? We've been chased down.
So
I've been dead.
So it wasn't a question of not enjoying the ride. It was a question of you were put in peril and harm's way by the disgruntled balloon navigator and an aviator, right?
The balloon Nazi. Yeah. I mean, that was it too. But I don't like heights. So for me, this was not fun.
Yeah. And especially
I thought
heights.
this thing could crash, and it was not fun because it's like going over a field of crocodiles, whatever. I mean, there's wild animals all down there. That's what I didn't like.
And all your mind kept racing to was, we're going down. We're going down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was scared. So that was, that was it.
Good business
So,
birthday.
So happy birthday, Ben. So poor thing died. In a plane crash. Well, we talked earlier about this was an article out of that was reprinted in the Ladders, but essentially it was, what age do most people start to feel old? And so they had done this. They had done a survey. They talked to over 2,000 participants, and they asked them, at what age do you feel, or do you think you start to feel old? And they came up with this number. And John, you want to reveal what the number is, and tell me if you felt that number was
the
accurate.
article actually puts in parentheses, drum roll please, and then it says the number. And according to these 2,000 participants, 47 was the age they began to feeling old around the age of 47. I disagreed with this. I think if I'm beginning to feel old at all, it's probably right now, and I'm certainly not 47. But it was interesting because they looked at a couple of vectors here. So all the participants involved in the report were over the age of 40. Nearly 4 in 5, 77%, said that they feel younger than their chronological age. Okay, I get that. More than half, 55%, even see their younger selves when they look in the mirror. So there's that kind of disconnect of they're not feeling their age and they see their younger selves. But it's things like, here's how it went. Hearing a familiar song on the oldies station, 43%, would make you feel old. Involuntarily grunting while getting out of a seat, 37%. I want to circle back to that one, by the way. Seeing a celebrity that you never heard of, 33% say that makes them feel old. Having trouble seeing in a dimly lit room, 26%. I'm surprised by that. Are you not surprised by that? It's the eyesight thing that always gets me. And not being on TikTok, 24% say that makes them feel older. For me, who cares about TikTok? I don't mean to, disparage anybody. I'm sure it's a lot of fun. Just something else to distract you. But the two that I wanted to go back to is not seeing in a dimly lit room. That began for me in my 30s. When you're in these super dark restaurants, you have to hold the candle up to the menu, right?
Right.
But the other one was this thing here, involuntarily grunting while getting out of a seat. So to put our wonderful world of science into perspective for you, about 10 years ago, researchers did a study on why people make noises when they do things, like when they lean down, when they stand up, when they pick up a box. And they found out through hundreds of participants that the sound effect, like getting up for something, was totally brain driven and had nothing to do with exhaustion or age. It was just something you did because you just thought you had to have a sound effect to go with lifting up something heavy or something like that. Right. So I just want to bring that up. So what else did you take out of this?
It's like people at the gym, and they said that. So the three things that they said defined age was your inability to perform certain functions, lack of pop culture, understanding pop culture, and cosmetic decay. So wrinkles, gray hair.
Cosmetic decay.
The eyesight, the eyesight thing. And then they said, which I never heard of this term, but they said that there was a way that they felt that you could slow down the aging process by slowing the shortening of telomeres.
The telomeres. This is a known. Yeah. So the telomeres are part of our. Is it part of the DNA structure or the cellular structure? And they've figured out that as long as they stay at certain lengths, we are actually physically more able to do things. We're younger, quote unquote. And when they start to shorten, then we lose functionality and cells start to age and not do as well.
So you can probably add 10 years on your life if you do these three things, but no surprise, right? One of them was managed stress.
Mm-hmm. The next one was exercise. I'm right there every day. Right. And then the third was diet,
which I've heard a million times. And the Mediterranean diet in particular, I just had gone through this medical thing, as you know, John, with the doctor, and he advocated the Mediterranean diet, which I love all that sort of food, which is mostly
you're lucky, olive oils, fish,
olive oils, fruits, vegetables, nuts, fish, all that sort of stuff. The problem is, I want to be able to have somebody tell me here's what I could have to eat, but they usually just give you a list of foods to buy. But I want a menu. If somebody can put together a menu for me, please send it to me.
Do you know, you bring up something that's fascinating. I worked with a nutritionist years ago, and I had the exact same thought process you did. I thought I was going to be handed, like, here's the 5 different breakfasts you can have. Here's the 4 different lunches, and here's the 10 different dinners, whatever. And all you had to do was, from your menu, reverse engineer the ingredient list, which was going to be olive oils, fruits, vegetables, nuts, fish, whatever, minimal red meat. But instead, it's just the categories. But the reason they do that, and that's what the nutritionist told me, is you have to learn. This has to become second nature. But
I want somebody to say you can have 2 hard-boiled eggs and a piece of toast.
Yeah. Now on this article, by the way, that Tim got this from the Ladders. This article is called "The Age When Most People Start to Feel Old." The comment section was actually hilarious. I don't know if you read the comments.
No.
Cosmetic decay came up a great deal. How dare people use the term cosmetic decay? Everybody's decaying. And because it came from the Ladders, there are a lot of comments in there about ageism and we shouldn't be focusing on this because this reinforces the notion of being older. I thought it was a good article. But because it came from that source, there's a lot of interesting pushback. Let's say that.
This is another just very quick story, but this had come out of San Francisco. So apparently, the original iconic rainbow flag has finally come home to San Francisco. So it was thought that the original rainbow flag that was made some 40 years ago had been lost and damaged
by flooding. I think it had been stored somewhere, who's the guy that created it? Gilbert Baker, And
Gilbert Baker.
Yeah, so Gilbert Baker had it stored somewhere. It had water damage. I think there were mildew on the edges or something. And apparently, unknown to everybody, he actually cut the bad sections of the flag, like that had been water damaged, and then just stored this large remnant away. And I guess his sister inherited this, and then she figured out what it was, right?
Yeah, so when he died, so everybody thought it was ruined and it got water damage. But back in '79, he went and salvaged, as you said, a piece of this. And when he died, they had found it, and his sister had handed all this over to some officials in San Francisco. And then somebody checked and thought, God, I wonder if this is the actual original flag. And they did find out that in '79, he did go salvage a piece of this 10 by 28 foot segment of the original flag. And they actually did testing on it to see that it was, in fact, the age of the material and the rope and so forth. So now they're going to try to find a permanent home, which they should, for the flag and have it on display and I guess put it under some sort of museum. What is that, museum quality or museum? What is it when you try to archive something? So that
they actually archivists will preserve the fabric. They'll treat it and then they will put it in a hermetically sealed environment, so it no longer will be damaged by the environment. But yeah, I think it's cool to have the original one back because it also reminds us of his original intent about empowerment, about community, about the beauty of the colors.
Right.
And the simplicity of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 colors, right? I mean, that's it. It's pretty cool. So I like this one too, and I think it's going to reside in San Francisco where it rightfully should be because that's one of the major capitals of LGBTQ rights.
I was surprised to hear they weren't doing Pride this year there, though.
Yeah, the event, another casualty of the event. Well, there you go, folks. We are going to wrap it up there. We want to thank you for taking time to be with Tim and I this week. Please check out the Focus Group Unbuttoned, TFG Unbuttoned. That's our Tuesday podcast, and that's available to you at our site and on all your podcast platforms of choice. FocusGroupRadio.com is where you want to go to learn about us, the show, and everything is housed there. And a big thank you to Deep Discount, a partner of ours here on the show for a long time now. Site-wide sale means shop till you drop, or at least shop till you find 3 or 4 titles that you really want to watch. Tim picked this week French Chef. It's a wonderful compilation of Julia Child's videos. It includes a Dan Aykroyd visit, so you know that's going to be his famous Saturday Night Live sketch where he lampoons her. I picked a movie called Public Speaking, which was a documentary on HBO from 2013 profiling Fran Lebowitz, and the release this week is the Indiana Jones 4-movie collection. If you are a fan, Run, Don't Walk. I love at least 3 of those movies. So everybody have a great week, and we'll see you in the new one.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at FocusGroupRadio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.